Howdy, 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 and welcome to the 3 Points of Articulation Figure Podcast presents Top 10, our first instalment of our Top 10 videos with Adam the Wrestling Man. The first instalment features the top 10 Indian WWE/WWF stars. Now, this can be Indian in heritage as well as born in India. So let's kick straight off into the top 10 with number 10. And it is Saurav of Indus. He kicked off his kind of career by becoming an actor in a very famous Indian TV show called Maharabat. Apologies for my pronunciation there. He was eventually signed to WWE on the 14th of January 2018, and he was kicked off straight into action on 2nd of February 2019 at the Worlds Collide event featuring NXT and 205 Live stars, and he got to the final 3 of the Battle Royal on that show, eventually won by Roderick Strong of the Undisputed Era. He made his NXT TV debut alongside his partner on the 25th of March 2020, attacking Matt Riddle. Unfortunately for Saurav, his main feature so far in WWE has been the fact that he gave away the result of the NXT versus North American title match, where Keith Lee was victorious on Keith Lee's monster push he got. It kind of caused a push back for Indus in that respect. Which is why he is below his partner, and it leads us to number 9, and number 9 is Rinku Singh of Indus. Rinku Singh started off his career as a reality TV star in India, believe it or not, with a TV show called $1 Million Arm, where the point was to find the fastest and most accurate baseball throw. This led to massive things for Rinku Singh. A Disney movie has been produced of $1 Million Arm, and he also made his debut baseball in the USA with the Gulf Coast League Pirates. He also a few other teams, including a spell in Australia with the Adelaide Bites. Along with his partner, he signed for the WWE on the 14th of January 2018. Took him a little bit longer to get on the shows. He started off in the house shows, managed by Robert Strauss, who you might know now as the Robert Stone brand. And eventually, on the 25th of March 2020, alongside new manager Malcolm Bivens, he made his debut on the main show, attacking Matt Riddle, and the week after, getting their first victory as Indus over the team of Everrise. Unfortunately, since then, it's been a little bit downhill due to Saurav giving away the result of the NXT title match, which we've covered, but they look to be coming back to fruition, most recently starring in the Superstar Spectacle in India. And that leads us nicely to number 8. Number 8 in our list belongs to the only female in this list, which is Kavita Devi. She started off as a weightlifter, going as far as winning gold in the South Asian Games, the 75 kilogram category. She began her career in wrestling in the CWF, the Continental Wrestling Entertainment, and she made her WWE debut on the 28th of August 2017 in the Mae Young Classic, in a losing effort to Dakota Kai in the first round. That was before she was even signed. Must have impressed. She was signed to the WWE on the 15th of October 2017. Her highlights since then: she was the first Indian woman to represent WWE in a WrestleMania match. She was in the Women's Battle Royal in the WrestleMania match, eventually eliminated by Riot Squad member Sarah Logan. And she was in the Mae Young Classic again in 2018, again failing to progress. She was eliminated in the first round by the returning Caitlyn. Number 7 and 6 of our list, I will do them both at once and then do a massive reveal at the end, is the Bollywood Boys, Sameer and Sunil Singh. They competed in TNA, Total Non-Stop Action, and Global Force Wrestling, owned by Jeff Jarrett, before they made their way to WWE. June the 13th, 2016, they both appeared in their debut in the Cruiserweight Classic tournament, both having first-round losses, respectively. On the same year, they lost to AOP, the Authors of Pain, in 2016 Dusty Cup Classic. I think that was won by AOP that year as well. They have the real distinction of winning the first ever match on 205 Live, where they defeated Tony Nese and Drew Gulak. So they can always have that. No one's ever going to take it. They obviously went on to manage Jinder Mahal. They became the Singh brothers for a brief time, before obviously returning to the Bollywood Boys recently. Now, how do I split them? And I figured the only way that I can really split them is their accomplishments in WWE. So they recently had a little spell competing for the 24/7 title. Sunil won it 4 times, so he is 7th on our list, and Samir is a 5-time 24/7 champion, so he takes the number 6 spot in our list. Now on to number 5. Number 5 moves much further into the past with Tiger Ali Singh. Tiger Ali Singh was actually trained by Antonio Inoki in the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo, so I expected big things from Tiger Ali. He was eventually signed to WWE in January 1997, and he won the 2nd ever Kuwait Cup. Big memories of that one? No? On the 9th of April 1997, defeating the late great Owen Hart in the final. Capitalising on that, on the 21st of April 1997, he made his Raw debut, but then we didn't see him for a little while. It seemed like WWE thought he had a good run with the UK audience, maybe as a heel, because in the 2 UK pay-per-views, One Night Only in 1997, and then No Mercy in 1999, a couple of years later, they were where he made his only pay-per-view appearances, defeating Leif Cassidy in 1997 and Gilbert in 1999, so maybe not huge wins for him there. In late 2000, he went on to manage the team of Lowdown, D'Lo Brown and Chaz, the former headbanger Mosh. And we haven't really seen him since. Number 4 is his daddy. It is Gamma Singh. Now, he didn't have a massive career, but the reason Gamma Singh makes it into number 4 is purely because he has the distinction of being the first ever Indian wrestler in the WWF, which I think is a massive achievement for him. He spent a couple of decades in Stampede Wrestling as well under Stu Hart, and wrestling a lot of the famous people you know, like Brett, Jim, Brian and Bulldog. He was in WWF from 1980 to 1986, but you didn't really see that much of him. He spent a lot of time wrestling on house shows. He did have a couple of TV appearances, one on Primetime in 85 against Johnny Rodz, WWE Hall of Famer Johnny Rodz, and in 1985 he also was on TNT, where he was interviewed by Vince McMahon alongside an Indian rock python. Now, if my dates suggest right, I think that was actually before Jake the Snake Roberts, so maybe Vince had a plan for Gamma Singh before Jake appeared. He is currently in TNA, looking very agile for his age, as part of the Desi Hit Squad. So that leads us to the top 3. Number 3, and we're going to be representing these with WWE figures from now on, is the Authors of Pain member Akam. He was signed to WWE in 2014, making his debuts at house shows in 2015. And February 2016, he was paired with Razor to form the Authors of Pain. They made their debut on June the 8th, attacking American Alpha at an NXT TakeOver event. In the same year, AOP won the Dusty Classic tournament, defeating TM61 in the final, and they also became NXT Tag Team Champions, a meteoric rise, as they defeated DIY, Ciampa and Gargano at NXT TakeOver San Antonio. They eventually made their Raw debut, dropping Paul Ellering, who was managing them along the way, eventually replaced a few months later by Drake Maverick. They went on to win Raw Tag Team Gold, so you can see why Akam is so high in this list. Lost it quite quickly, and then unfortunately due to injuries to first Razor and then Akam, they ended up being released from the WWE to many people's astonishment in September 2020. Much potential, much more chance for Akam to become higher on the list, but obviously WWE did not see that. Number 2 is the modern day Maharaja, Jinder Mahal. Actually the nephew of Gama Singh, interesting to note, because Gama Singh was on our list earlier. In February 2010, he was signed to FCW, which was kind of like the earlier NXT. And he made his debut in 2011 on the SmackDown roster, eventually defeating Vladimir Kozlov on his debut. 2012, he was eliminated in the Royal Rumble by the Great Khali, and then he was sent back to NXT for a bit of experience because NXT had just come on TV, and he was defeated in the final of the first ever NXT title tournament by Seth Rollins. What a moment in history for Jinder. After that, he went back to the main roster and formed the fantastic stable of 3MB. Well, depends how you look at it, alongside Heath Slater and Drew McIntyre, which eventually led to his release in 2013. He spent a couple of years on the independent circuits, Puerto Rico, Canada, Japan, and of course India, before eventually returning to the WWE in August 2016. He defeated Heath Slater in a storyline where Heath Slater was trying to win a contract on Raw. He competed at Mania 33. He was the runner-up in the Battle Royal, which was won by Mojo Rawley. Oh, how WWE regret that decision now. In April, his meteoric rise started in April 2017 as he won the WWE title after a number one contenders win in May at Backlash. He was going to go on to face Brock Lesnar during that title run, which personally I think would have been an excellent match. Unfortunately, AJ Styles beat him on the SmackDown before the event, and it was champion versus champion, so AJ faced Brock instead. At Mania 34, he won the United States heavyweight title in a fatal four-way match. You may not remember Jinder's United States title run. I certainly didn't until I researched for this. That was because it ended 8 days later. In the middle of injuries, he briefly had a little 24/7 title run involving a classic moment on a plane where R-Truth beat him while he was sleeping. But his career has been plagued by injuries since then. He recently returned at the Superstar Spectacle. Hopefully, we'll get to see a lot more of Jinder, maybe with the NXT India starting soon. Which leads us on to the moment that everyone has been waiting for. Numero uno. And number one in the list belongs to, you guessed it, none other than the Great Khali in all his Mattel glory here. Great Khali was a member of the Punjab Police Force in 1993. Apparently that was a way to get him a bit more famous and push him up towards kind of sports stardom. Don't know how that works, but apparently it was. A little known fact was that he signed with WCW in 2001. Obviously we didn't see any appearances there. January the 2nd, 2006 is when he signed with WWE and made his debut in April with Daivari as his manager, attacking The Undertaker. Anyone who makes a debut with The Undertaker involved, WWE have got to be doing big things for him. And yes, they were. His little skit with The Undertaker had a victory for him at Judgment Day. A simple kick, I think, led to the victory. That was a rather strange one. And then his first loss at SummerSlam. He had a brief spell where he kept getting moved around after that. He had a brief spell in WWE version of ECW, then he was moved to Raw, and then he was drafted to SmackDown, and it all seemed a bit up in the air. They didn't really know what to do with him. But when he went to SmackDown, there was a legitimate injury to Batista, which caused a battle royal for the World Heavyweight Championship, which the Great Khali won and became a World Heavyweight Champion in WWE. Another reason why he's so high on the list here. He eventually lost it on the 16th of September to Batista. Obviously, Batista returning from injury, got the belt back from him. He then had his spell, which a lot of the younger members of the audience and a lot of people who really like the comedic aspects of WWE would have enjoyed, and that was as the Punjabi Playboy. Had a little bit of a feud with Jinder Mahal during that as well. He made fleeting appearances after that, really, from 2012 to now. Most recently, he helped Jinder Mahal retain the world title in 2017, or the WWE title, should I say, and then he was involved in the Greatest Royal Rumble in 2018. Why does Great Khali make the top of the list? He's the most famous person to come out of India that's been in the WWE. He is a world heavyweight champion. He has trained lots of the NXT India stars that we're going to be seeing a lot more of soon. I can't say any more. So I really hope you have enjoyed this list. I am Adam the Wrestling Man of the 3 Points of Articulation Figure Podcast. Thanks for listening. Join me next time.